to Hapai Te Haura and Mihi Blair. Warm welcome. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Ko Waikoroa, ko Ngāti Whātua toko iwi, ko Mihi Blair toko ingoa, ko Hapai Te Haura toko mahi. Ko Rebecca Review Collins, ia ko no Ngāpohi toko ia iwi, aroha mai. Kia ora. We thank the Council, Auckland Council, for the opportunity to present on their action plan for smoke-free communities, and we thank you for allowing us to provide the research where Hapai captured the people who are suffering the most in tobacco, either directly or indirectly, our Māori and Pasifika people. Hapai are committed to contributing to the developing health policy that works for Māori and Pasifika communities. As such, we have formally endorsed this plan. However, we understand that groups that have presented today have a different perspective, and you have heard this. This, in our opinion, is based on their own needs and not the needs of the people that are most affected by tobacco, and so we are here to present on this kaupapa. We endorse activity stream 1, by the people, for the people, and the targeted community approach outlined. The design of this action plan is to establish the much needed community trust. We believe that if done correctly, this plan will contribute to a deeper and ongoing strategic engagement between Māori and Pasifika communities and the Auckland Council. We question the integrity and the perspectives that do not endorse community-led initiatives. This means having plans that reflect tikanga and values in a way that is genuine and non-tokenistic. We draw on the kōrero from community hui that informed this council plan, which centred on disengaging from tobacco control initiatives that wasn't community-led. We witnessed community groups being frustrated by public health and council plans being made without engaging in the community. A statement from one of the focus groups: as soon as I see something smoke-free on the bus stop, I just don't like it. I'm sick of these messages being forced on me. We definitely didn't come up with those billboards. We question the universal approach that has been presented in terms of investment. We question the integrity in universal approaches to public health and associated with the funding. If we take this approach in this tobacco control plan rather than a targeted support, we will only be contributing to increasing disparities. We do not agree the funding should be funding to this should be greater than what has been stated in the action plan. We endorse activity stream 2. Activate smoke-free spaces. We draw on community feedback on the effectiveness of campaigns which are smoke-free. While we agree that there needs to be investment into smoke-free events and education, we run the risk of marginalising our audience if it's messaging strictly smoke-free. We support the feedback from the research that we conducted, which is centred on needing holistic approaches to health messages and positive mana-enhancing stories told by those in the community, creates belonging and ownership of their own community. We endorse activity stream 3, switch to quit. No one has ever said vaping is safe, but put into the context of smoking, it is much safer. This is what we are focusing on. The previous speaker dismissed the fact that people who smoke and the many toxins that are going through their lungs is happening right now. So what he's trying to say is don't support those who are struggling and wanting to quit, but carry on smoking. We question that. We already have Māori and Pasifika taking up vaping on their own after trying to quit. 200 women were trialled by the Ministry of Health and found that reducing barriers such as inviting smoke-free, vape-friendly spaces and engaging into the community helped them quit quicker. Last week, Hapai Te Haura delivered this first New Zealand's first vaping policy forum, which was hosted at Parliament and sponsored and opened by the Associate Minister of Health, Jenny Salesa. With nearly 100 attending the forum, they heard the following. Year 10 survey, where 30,000 14-year-olds were surveyed. 1.8% of them vaped daily. This has dropped down from 1.9% the previous year. Gatewaying, Dr. Natalie Walker from the University of Auckland presented there is no epidemic here or overseas in our rangatahi. We find it frustrating that these statistics are not being utilised. Health impacts. We hear the health impacts on our people. Experiences from Te Aro Moana Te Whiu, no Taranaki Te Aotearoa Te Iwi. Since the day she was born, she suffered severe respiratory issues, being in and out of hospital with chronic asthma, bronchitis, and pneumonia. So smoker from early age, she switched to vaping, and it was the first time in 5 years she did not suffer from pneumonia. This is the real winner we're talking about right here. Responsibility. Vape vendors in New Zealand have been collectively working together for the past 4 years to support those who want to quit and to educate the vapers in etiquette in public vaping. Minister Salesa, who presented her bill, is presenting her bill to Cabinet, which will regulate vaping, which outlines that this is to support smokers to prevent uptake. Our experts on the panel that developed these recommendations have designed to do just that. Regulations on service, on quality of devices and juices is happening right now. The FDA is in America, so we must remember we are in Aotearoa, and our New Zealand government are being accountable to manage the quality and are active in change when and if required. Currently, the Ministry of Health has signed Health Promotion Agency, HPA, to develop campaigns specifically targeting Wahine Māori. As a member of the Vaping Campaign Advisory Board and member of the Vaping Advertising Panel, I see this action plan complementing Ministry's goals by creating environments to do so. By promoting vaping as a quit tool, switch to quit, this will potentially see our Wahine Māori to be the natural educators that we so rightly should be. This will change the perspective that vaping is not a cool thing. It's going to change it into a health tool to save our mum and our nana and our auntie and our sister. Our responses to external vaping reviews. We question the literature on vaping and the privileged biomedical Western evidence over Indigenous knowledge, and the call into question the value of vaping literature. Various reviews on vaping, like some that has been presented today, suggest there needs to be a well-designed studies that investigate potential of vaping and reducing smoking prevalence amongst Māori and other priority populations. Choosing to prioritise such research in the effort to make tobacco control plans demonstrates the lack of urgency that is needed to reach smoke-free 2025. We believe that the Council can make robust conclusions on such issues. There mustn't be a strong reliance on evidence from the global north, the assumed gold standard and the best practice perceived by that is originating there. Finally, Hāpai are committed to the goal of smoke-free. Every year, 5,000 New Zealanders die from tobacco-related illnesses, like my father did. It was the hardest thing to explain to our children that he died from one of the most preventable diseases. We hope that the next generation will not have to experience what we have had to, and most likely you have had to. So let's do something now. We would like to thank the Council and commend you for being the people and leading the other councils to do so. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, thank you. So any questions? Councillor Cooper.
Kia ora mihi, and thank you for that. And just acknowledge your father and Renata's dad. Having a 22-year-old daughter who has been smoking and is now vaping, I was thinking, oh yay, that's good. And then I've heard all these other things this morning as a mother. I go, oh my goodness. Have you done any studies with younger people quitting rather than older women?
These studies that we've done is actually with younger people, both Māori women, Māori women, between 20 and 30 years of age.
Sorry, that's it. So, and they are moving on to quitting rather than just staying with the vape?
Yes.
Yeah, so sorry, just my experience, and because I deliver treatment, and I use vaping as a method to help people to switch from tobacco. What I'm seeing is pretty much around the 12-month period is that people are spontaneously giving up vaping as well, which is a good thing. And, you know, I think if your daughter did not switch to vaping, which she has, you know, if you didn't have this tool, she would potentially be smoking still and struggling. And what we know is that our Māori and our Pacific, their they're not presenting at the stop smoking services that we have in our communities now, and through our council work that we did, they didn't even know where and who were the stop smoking services. So, having a real community-led campaign and things around this is going to help. It's going to mana aki our whānau, empower and lift them up to make good changes.
Thank you. Councillor Bartley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I'm hearing you. I know that the answers lie in our community, but I'm also hearing the concerns about vaping. And so I'm asking, what do you think we can do to kind of walk that line? Because I have a 14-year-old nephew, and he's vaping because he thinks it's safer than smoking. So he doesn't think that, that there's anything bad with it. Now, if council gets into promoting that Action 3, that's going to go wider out there, and more people are going to think that it's okay to vape, as opposed to something that is an option to help you stop smoking. So really could use your advice here. How do we walk that line?
Right. So what is being presented is vape to quit. It's not vaping environments. We are actually actively promoting vape to quit. So a 14-year-old picking up vaping because he knows smoking's worse, I think, that is something that we have to commend our rangatahi, is actually they're using the education of actually, if I pick up smoking, it's more addictive. Combustible smoke is more addictive than vaping. In terms of the spaces in that, do you want to answer?
Yeah, so in terms of smoke-free spaces, I agree that there should be no vaping indoors, but outside we should be encouraged to have vape-friendly spaces. And why I say that is that we need to show those people that are smoking tobacco what, that there is an area where you can actually potentially switch over to something that is less harmful. I'm not saying that this, there is some harm in vaping, but we've got to look at the reduced harm. It is significantly less harmful than the 100% toxins that we take in by smoking combustible smoke, and that's what's doing most of the damage. So in terms of your 14-year-old nephew, I also think if our youth, all youth are going to be risk takers at some part of their life, what would they normally be picking up? They would be normally picking up a cigarette and continuing with an addiction that's going to potentially really harm themselves. If we educate our youth to understand that this technology can actually really help, help people to stop smoking, but if they choose to use a vape in this way, then what we've got to do is educate them around not having any nicotine in their e-liquid. Potentially what I'm seeing is that people don't last long with vaping if they don't have any nicotine, and they're just youth trying to have a try, see what it's like. But again, this comes down to good messaging out in our communities to ensure that our children, our rangatahi, have good information to make good choices.
Final question. Oh, okay. I've got Councillor Newman and then Member Brown.
So I can understand the argument around the concentration of funding, particularly for Māori and Pacifica, and sadly a lot of them live in my community, so obviously want to direct the focus into communities such as mine. In saying that, I'm really struggling with some of what you're saying here, because I'm listening to Dr. Jones, a respiratory specialist from Middlemore Hospital, who is dealing with the consequences of some of this behaviour as part of his daily work. And I'm wondering how I can reconcile your arguments against what Dr. Jones is talking about, which, with the greatest respect, I think he's really sort of dealing with this on the basis of the academic literature which supports his concern. And I'm not sure that vaping is a sort of transitional space. It seems to me this is a bit binary. This is a behaviour, no matter if it's tobacco or not, which is still damaging our respiratory system, and therefore it's harmful. And I don't feel that I can condone it as a sort of an intermediate position. So maybe you could help me to reconcile this.
So, yeah, what I see, and you know, I've been working in stop smoking services for over 10 years, and I've delivered traditional stop smoking services, behavioural change services, also using all the medication that we have now to help people stop smoking. In terms of what we heard from Dr. Jones is, you know, he by all means has every right to be concerned around this. And I when I first started using this tool, I was looking at it, it still looks like smoking. It must be harming us somehow. I'm not saying that this is potentially this tool is 100% healthy. There is a small risk. However, you've got to weigh up the harm here. 100% risk of smoking tobacco. And what we know is we've got the most ingrained smokers that enjoy the whole process of smoking. If we don't have something that is going to help reduce the harm, which is what our vaping is doing, it is disrupting the smoking, then, you know, we're pretty much saying don't use this tool, carry on smoking. Even though we know it's significant reduce in harm. It's not 100%, but it is something. And I think, especially with our health survey that the government have just released, Māori and our Pacific are picking this up as a tool. For the first time, they are able to stop smoking tobacco. And, you know, we've got to celebrate that. We've got to celebrate that this tool is actually going to help more people to finally give up smoking tobacco. And then let's look at how we can help them move from that space into Awa Kore.
I would also like to point out that Dr. Stuart Jones also said that it is significantly less harmful than tobacco, and we actually have to put that into the context. He didn't present any information about combustible tobacco either to balance it out. So putting it into that context, we actually understand that this is a less harmful product than tobacco, and that is what we're focusing on the Smoke Free Action Plan.
Can I make one more question, one more quick one? Would you concede that from the position where I'm sitting here today, it's quite difficult to reconcile all the submissions from the agencies and the practitioners who have appeared today, who appear to not to have achieved a consensus? And so it's quite difficult for me to sit here and to receive some of these messages which are quite divergent and ask me basically to pick the winning argument.
Yep. Definitely can understand that, and for the past, I don't know how many years the Smoke Free Action Plan has been going around the country, we're doing the same stuff. We're asking the members here today just be a bit braver, actually look at what's going on in your communities. At the moment, the Manurewa community, the Healthy Families, promote activating their communities with their bilingual hikoi. That is significant for the community-led development, and there's a smoke-free component in it where they stood at a po and talked about becoming smoke-free as a community. So these are the things that we understand what's happening in your communities right now, which we support. We're just asking that the members to actually be brave to get to 2025. Trust in what we're saying, and that what the Māori women that have been doing in our communities all across Aotearoa are advocating for as well.
I think that was the end of the questions. Oh, sorry, there was Member Brown. Just before I go to Member Brown, I'm actually just going to hand over to Councillor Filipaina. The Mayor and I do need to go down and make sure that we welcome and are there to listen to the first two speeches before the petition gets handed over. Councillor Filipaina will then oversee the Pacific presentation from Metua Bates, and then we'll break and we will come back at 1 o'clock, but I need to leave and do this. So councillors, as soon as we've gone through the next presentation, feel free to come down, but we can't obviously have the council pouring out now because we would lose a quorum, and that would be disrespectful to our people who've put time into being here. So can I urge people to stay? The petition's not going to be handed over for another 20 minutes or so. So please stay at the meeting and come down in preparation for the petition handover. Thank you, and I do apologise for leaving in the midst of the presentation. Kia ora, thank you, and thank you, Councillor Filipaina.
Member Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not sure I'll be 20 minutes, it could be 21, but here we go. So the substantive matter before us this afternoon around the policy framework in the last hour or so has revealed a pretty comparative debate, really in tune with by Māori, for Māori, similarly for Pacifica and every other ethnicity, if that's what the target audience and discussion's about. But I want to pick up a couple of things because Councillor Newman took the wind out of my spinnaker around the comparables. I wanted a similar explanation, but there's a couple of things you said I want to pick up on. And one is the army of Māori and Pacifica that do enjoy a cigarette. And I just say that insofar as inevitably the other part of the debate awaits us at 2025 regardless. So I'm all about picking up every tool and instrument regardless of how much or less issues remain, insofar as the easy example you've given around Māori who actually do require those prompts and those suite of things to assist them on their journey, because that's all I can concentrate on, being a smoker myself. So I'll speak for the smokers. Wondered if we know who the oldest Māori smoker was. I was just at a 90th in Tōrere, and as well as all the parked up walking chairs that were at this 90th, were actually the parked up owners of them all sitting around the corner having a cigarette. Most of them were of great age. Admittedly, it's in a country estate in this eastern Bay of Plenty town called Tōrere, so they don't actually have other smog things like we do, because, like, you know, when do we quit the smog? The other thing I just wanted to concentrate on was around Manaakitanga, and that includes the smoking nation. In particular, inbound tourists coming into this country, that's a pretty big bubble in this city, if not the country. Now, let's put the context of 2025 on the real platform, because we need to start telling our Asian visitors that we are going smoke free. And if you don't know that industry, we're actually telling them don't come here, because they are smoking, like Māori and Pacifica, people. In fact, they're so good at it still, they're still selling for $5. So I don't think they're giving up overnight, no matter what initiatives and tools and instruments. And I'll just say that around Manaakitanga, because as Māori, we still remain at the welcoming post no matter what habits you got, right? No matter what they are or how long you had them. We still remain at the welcoming post under our duty of care DNA to make sure every visitor is welcomed, hosted, and according the honour that our ancestors would have accorded them in their time. So I just wanted to not celebrate, because I'm all about the health part, but I do want to pick up the thing, because just in a nanosecond, the oldest smoking human was 146 years old, followed by a 122-year-old. And I'm just wondering that, because I'm trying to find who's the oldest human that didn't smoke? And I'm not getting anywhere near those numbers. So just on that, I'm not defending it. I'm all about the policy. But for us, or for me at least, I'll be going with all tools and instruments in this substantive debate around the policy before council this afternoon. Kia ora.
Good on Member Brown. Just to answer that, we don't actually have the stats on who's the oldest Māori smoker in New Zealand. That'll be interesting to know. But I also know that my aunties and uncles always tell me off and look at me and say, I'm a smoker, hardcore smoker. I'm like, kei te pai, let's look at your mokopuna. What kind of lifestyle or healthy lifestyle and environment do we want them to grow up into? And they all say a smoke-free, a healthy environment. It's not smoke, it's a healthy environment. They want them to last and not have the addictions that they are facing themselves. We also know that the design of the action plan does not punish the smokers. It enables the community to own their community and promote the key messages about their community. We know that tourism from China, they have unrestricted smoking environments, and actually the tobacco cost pack is 4 RMB, because I know because our father smoked it, which is about 50 cents in New Zealand. So we know that this is inherent in their culture as well, just like the Canadian culture with their tobacco use. But we also need to understand that their environments need to actually celebrate a healthy environment, and that's what this action plan will actually promote.
Ka pai. So, any further questions? If not, ngā mihi kia kōrua. And recommendation, I will move. Second will be Councillor Casey. So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?